Hi guys, Carthenian here, and welcome back to our Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 Learn to Fly series. We'll be picking up from where the last video left off, so by now you should have a simulator installed and set up. Now that we've got the game set up, we can go ahead and get ready for our flight. Our first flight is going to be what we call a discovery flight. Back when I was a kid, we used to just call these intro flights, and they provide a great way for us to just jump right in and start flying. So the first thing we're going to do is to go into the options menu and adjust the settings for this flight. So go ahead and click Options and then click on Assistance. This is basically a collection of settings that will control how true to life our flight experience will be, and each one of the categories can be expanded to adjust specific settings one by one. For this first flight, there's definitely no shame in just setting everything on easy, although this will be the only flight that we do. We want to be able to just hop in and see what it's like to fly the plane without having to worry about stuff like crashing. So let's go ahead and do that now. You can just go to the first bar and make sure it says All Assists, and that automatically sets all the categories to easy. Now, there's a few categories which I'd like for you to put on hard. The first will keep the sim from acting funny in general, so go ahead and set the piloting category to hard. Next, set the notifications to hard. This will keep the sim from popping up a lot of annoying messages. Hopefully you'll find you won't need these messages with this video series, but you can always turn them back on later if you'd like. Lastly, there's actually one more category which I want you to put on hard, and that's user experience. This will cut down the amount of windows we'll need to close when we start our flight. Once you're done, go ahead and hit apply and save, and then click on go back. Now, the only other thing settings-wise we'll need to do is to make sure we know the mappings of a few controls, but to be honest, it'll probably be easier to just take care of this once we're inside the aircraft. So let's go ahead and defer this one for now. So now let's go ahead and set up the aircraft and flight plan. Click on the Welcome tab and then click on the World Map. Now we're on the screen where we can start setting up and planning our flight. The first thing to do is to select our aircraft. Click on the picture of the airplane in the top left, then make sure the Aircraft Selection tab is highlighted. Select the Textron Aviation Cessna 152. Make sure you have the plain old 152 selected and not the Aerobat. The Aerobat is a specially modified 152 for light aerobatic duty whose flight profile will vary a bit differently than the bone stock version. On the next tab, Liveries, you can select your favorite paint job. Next, we can adjust weight and balance. You can play with these settings to simulate however you want. For example, you can fill the gas tanks up and put in your weight and some other weight for flight packs to simulate having an instructor. Note that if one or both of you is too heavy though, you'll have to take some gas out to avoid being over the weight limit. You can tell you're over the weight limit because the numbers down here will turn red. Just make sure you have enough fuel for our flight. I'd say about 5 gallons per side ought to do, but ideally we want to be topped off. For this first flight, we actually have unlimited fuel set, but we won't have that in the future. Messing around with this, you can quickly see this little trainer can't handle very much weight at all. I'm 240 pounds and at 6'5", I can't even fit in a real 152 because there isn't enough room to pull the yoke back without it hitting my knees. I'm going to simulate teaching myself how to fly, so I'll be leaving the pack seat empty. There's nothing wrong with doing so in our case. However you set up the weight, just make sure you're under the weight limit and you have the same amount of fuel on each side. We don't want to make things any more difficult or impossible. Next up, we have failures. Just make sure all these are off. Finally, we have customization. I wouldn't mess around with any of the flight model stuff for now. I leave my tail number showing for other players. As far as the tail number itself, you can set it to whatever you want or Flight Sim will give you a default value. You can also change this at any time. There are a set of rules for tail number registrations in the US, so I've included a link in the video description for more information if you want to keep it official. Depending on how obsessive you want to get, you can even look up the tail number with the FAA to see if it's already been taken in the real world or not. You can also look up the tail number of any low-flying helicopters which may be around your real-world neighborhood, just so you know it's the power company checking on lines and not, say, the Men in Black or something. I've included the link to the N number lookup as well. Call signs are for military use in aviation companies mostly. For example, at the time of this video, British Airways likes to use the call sign Speedbird for whatever that's worth. Flight numbers are used for commercial air traffic, and heavy is reserved for a class of aircraft which are mostly big transcontinental jets. Interestingly enough, though, as of this video, they haven't implemented a pending Super, which, at least for now, only applies to the Airbus A380 and the Antonov AN225. neither of which are included with the sim anyway. When you're done picking a number, you can click on Close. Now we can pick our flight path. You can obviously fly wherever you want, but since I'm from Cleveland, all my videos will be based from there. So if you want to fly along with me, go ahead and type KBKL in the search box. That's Kilo Bravo Kilo Lima. Go ahead and pick the Burke Lakefront entry. This takes us to Burke Lakefront Airport, which is on a landfill in Lake Erie north of downtown Cleveland. This is one of the last urban lakefront airports around, and it is reminiscent of the now closed Mix Field in Chicago, where the old versions of Flight Sim used to take place. Click on the map and then click on the dot that says Ramp 5 Parking. Then select Set as Departure. This starts us right outside the terminal cold and dark, which will be good for us because it lets us get in some practice in taxiing and how the aircraft is going to feel on the ground. Now click on the dot again and click Set as Arrival. It's crucial now that you enter in the next series of waypoints in the order which I give you, because the flight planner gets really fussy about which waypoints go where, and it's hard to get it to put all the stops in the correct order. I also want you to have a flight plan because for this first flight, you'll be able to see on screen where to fly to, and at any point, you can just have the AI take over and fly the route for you if you want to focus on the scenery. In the search box, enter iMusy, IMUSY. Select the waypoint and select Add. Now enter Kilo Lima November November, KLNN. Select the airport and select Add. Next, enter Charlie Foxtrot Delta Zulu Bravo. Select the waypoint and select Add. So now your route should be KBKL to CFDZB to iMusy to KLNN and then back to KBKL. If it doesn't add the waypoints in the correct order, you could try deleting one or more and then re-adding them in a different order until you can get them in the correct order. Unfortunately, the waypoint order is still a major pain point in the built-in flight planner, and it could take a lot of messing around with to get right. Hopefully, Microsoft will add a way to change the waypoint order in the near future. You can also save the .flt files and edit them in a text editor, but I don't want to dive into that right now. So as you can see, even in my case, I need to delete KLNN and re-add it. That gets the waypoint where I want it. Once you manage to get the waypoint sorted, click on Navlog and set the cruising altitude to 3,000 feet. Be sure to hit enter so it saves. And now finally click on flight conditions. You can fly with real world weather if you want to, but if it's cloudy or windy that day, it will mess with you. I'm going to fly in clear skies weather, so I'll also leave live players off and just use the AI traffic. Also, let's make sure we're flying during the day. So we're finally ready to go, so go ahead and click on fly. Now a couple of things while this loads. For this video series, you may want to grab yourself a copy of the Pilot's Operating Handbook for the Cessna 152. This is the operator's manual for the aircraft, and in addition to covering procedures and limitations, it will give us figures that we'll need when we get into flight planning. There are various versions you could search for, but I use the one for which I've included a link in the video description. If you're interested in learning more of the ground school kind of stuff, there's a number of resources around the net you can check out. I agree with another YouTuber, BadGamr, on the three biggies being the ground school lessons from Flight Simulator 2002, the Airplane Flying Handbook, and the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge. The ground school lessons from Flight Simulator 2002 offer an excellent summary of aviation skills and knowledge. According to BadGamr, it is available on the Internet Archive, and I've included a link in the description as well as a link to BadGamr's channel. BadGamr offers a ton of content related to Flight Simulator 2020, especially when it comes to free and paid for add-ons, as well as several videos on tweaking the sim for your optimal enjoyment. Check them out. If you've really caught the bug, check out the Airplane Flying Handbook and the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge. Both of these are free publications from the FAA and contain all the information you could ever want and more. Contrary to most government documents, these offer a pretty good read and plenty of diagrams and illustrations to aid in the learning process. In the next video, we'll check out our Cessna on the ground and take care of some final control mappings. See you there. Ciao.